The Assyriology channel is dedicated to the study of ancient Mesopotamia and the ancient Near East. This video is part of a series that will discuss the concept of the determinative in Sumerian cuneiform. A determinative is a sign that was added preceding or following a term to label it as belonging to a specific semantic group. In most cases, it is not believed that determinatives were pronounced. This video is going to be on the use of stone in ancient Mesopotamia. It is going to discuss some of the stones that were typically used as building materials, such as sandstone and limestone, as well as stones that were used for more elaborate projects, such as alabaster and diorite. We're also going to take a look at some of the stones that were used as semi-precious stones and precious stones for jewelry purposes, such as Carnelian and the most prestigious of stones, Lapaz lazuli. Throughout this video, I'm going to be referencing D.T. Pott's work, Mesopotamian Civilization, The Material Foundations. On the use of limestone, D.T. Potts writes, "One of the most widely held beliefs about the southern Mesopotamian landscape is that it was entirely devoid of stone of any kind. It is commonplace to consider all objects of stone discovered on archaeological sites in southern Mesopotamia as imports from one of its neighbors, whether Anatolia, Iran, or more distant regions such as Oman, Central Asia, or the Indian subcontinent. In the case of limestone, however, this has now been recognized as a false presumption. A wide variety of pendants, seals, beads, vessels, and architectural elements were made of limestone throughout southern Mesopotamia's long history. During the Uruk period, most of the religious buildings at Uruk, including the limestone temple, the stone cone temple, Temple Palace E, and the stone building, incorporated important elements of white, gray-white, yellow-white limestone in their fabric. Some of these buildings were constructed on a limestone block 10 centimeters thick up to 60 to 80 centimeters in length. Although early excavators such as Julius Jordan assumed that all of the limestone at Uruk must have come from hundreds of kilometers away in the Zagros Mountains of Iran, the brilliant architectural historian Ernest Hendrik had observed as early as 1934 that the light gray limestone of the late Uruk period temples was available at outcrop only 60 kilometers away from Uruk, and further that some of the same distinctively colored limestone had been used at Ur, a site considerably closer to the source. Deorite or dolerite is a speckled gray intermediate intrusive rock that is coarse-grained. It is extremely hard, making it difficult to carve and sculpt. However, the hardness of diorite also allows it to be worked finely, and it provides a durable finished work that looks beautiful when polished. It was highly desirable for sculptures, but also for the building of seals, beads, amulets, and pendants. Diorite had to be imported into Mesopotamia from faraway lands. It was often imported through the Persian Gulf, sometimes through Dilmun as a trade intermediate. It could be mined in the hills of Magan, located in what is now modern-day Oman. It could also be imported from Elam, located in what is modern-day Iran. Diorite was the preferred building material for important objects such as the statues of rulers. By the Shargonic dynasty, Akkadian rulers were seeking a more exotic building material than the ordinary limestone found in northern Mesopotamia. During the reign of Manish-Tushu, a school of talented diorite sculptors crafted numerous elegant works. These masterfully skilled artisans became so prolific that Manish-Tushu even had land contracts created in diorite, whereas land contracts of previous rulers, such as his predecessor Ramush, had been crafted in ordinary limestone. Naram-Sin claimed to have conquered Magan, to have brought back diorite from the conquered lands as spoils. Diorite remained popular for making extremely high-quality objects throughout the Neo-Sumerian Renaissance and the Old Babylonian period. Numerous diorite statues of various rulers have been found in Mesopotamia, including the famous diorite votive statue of Gudea. The Code of Hammurabi was inscribed on a 2-meter or 7-foot pillar of black diorite. Many cuneiform texts reference diorite as a prestigious building material. Line 49 of Enki and Ninhur Saga reads, "May the land of Megan offer you strong, powerful copper, diorite, oostone, and Schumann stone." Alabaster is a fine-grained form of gypsum. It is usually a remarkable translucent white in coloration. The stone was used in Mesopotamia for carving statues. It's a soft stone, and accordingly it's exceptionally useful for carving intricate details on sculptures. Seals, plaques, vases, and vessels such as bowls, pitchers, jugs, and cups have also been found at sites. Mesopotamian artisans produced fascinating zoomorphic vessels in alabaster of various creatures such as a hare or a hedgehog. The composition of alabaster is the same as that of gypsum, dihydrate calcium sulfate. It's a water-soluble salt which results in a limitation in the environmental conditions to which it can withstand exposure. Alabaster can be found at quarries in pieces typically up to 1 meter in diameter. Limited quantities of alabaster could be obtained at a quarry just north of Sippar. A text from the time of Gudea mentions importing the stone from the Alabaster Mountains. There are several variations of the term attested. Sometimes it's written with gal, meaning great, added to the end of it, for example. Lapaz lazuli is a beautiful deep blue metamorphic rock. It is the most abundant of the precious stones that were found at archaeological sites throughout southern Mesopotamia. It is also the most frequently attested of the precious stones mentioned in Sumerian textual sources. Most of the items made of lapaz that have been recovered from sites are small personal objects, such as jewelry or seals. Woolley found a number of lapaz objects during the excavations of the tombs of Ur that included a cup, a dagger hilt, and a whetstone. By the 2nd millennium BCE, artificial lapaz lazuli was attested. Lapaz lazuli was mentioned in incantation texts as a material component associated with purification. It was considered a sacred stone in ancient Mesopotamia, and it was associated with Nisaba, the deity of writing and scribes. The temple of Nisaba at Uruk was called the House of Lapaz Lazuli. Tablets made of lapaz held a special significance. Nisaba was said to have possessed a sacred tablet of lapaz lazuli called Dub Mulan, or Tablet of Stars and the Clear Heavens. This tablet is often referenced in hymns to Nisaba. However, other texts reference it in ways that imply it was a real tablet. The Mesopotamians may have believed that the tablet was a replica of a sacred star chart from ancient times. They may have also believed that the heavens were made of lapaz lazuli, as implied in several texts, thus explaining the color of the blue sky above. Several texts refer to the blue heavens, including the incantation of Utu and a hymn of Rim-Sin. Lapaz lazuli is mentioned in multiple stories, including Gilgamesh and the Etana epics, as well as Enmerkar and the Lord of Harada. Texts mention a mountain of lapaz lazuli as being the origin of the stone. It was imported on work from the region that is now modern-day Afghanistan, and then crafted into finished objects once the raw material reached Mesopotamia, as indicated by the presence of unworked chips and lumps of lapaz found in deposits at archaeological sites. According to Sumerian texts, lapaz reached Mesopotamia via trade routes through lands such as Harada, Dilmun, and Meluha. The hymn of Ninurta, as well as Gudea Cylinder B, both mention lapaz being imported from Meluha via ship. Modern scholars generally equate the geographic term Meluha with the Indus River Valley culture. Carnelian is a variety of the silica mineral chalcedony colored by impurities of iron oxide. The appearance of the stone ranges widely from reddish-brown to orange-red. The presence of iron oxide impurities led the Mesopotamians to describe carnelian in a text about stones as being spotted. Carnelian is a fairly hard stone that was used in jewelry. It's a decorative stone that's particularly suited for fine beads and seals. In later periods, the stone was used to make engraved gems for signet rings. Hot wax doesn't stick to carnelian, making it exceptionally useful for this purpose. Because it occurs widely, and because it's found in igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary rock formations, the exact areas of origination can sometimes be difficult to determine. Carnelian occurs in alluvial pebbles in the central plateau of Iran, as well as the mountains of northern Iran, and it can also be found in large blocks near the Gulf. It was most likely imported into Mesopotamia as a raw material, as well as in manufactured beads. Carnelian is second only to lapis lazuli in terms of popularity of the gemstones found at Ur. Woolley, the excavator at Ur, attributed the carnelian found there to the Gulf area, although it has since been pointed out that the Indus River Valley is a far more likely candidate as being the origin of these stones. Carnelian was sometimes imported through Dilmun, which often acted as a trade hub of goods moving in and out of Mesopotamia through the Gulf. The Sumerian term for the Indus River Valley was Meluhha. The region is renowned for its carnelian, and it was most likely a major source of carnelian into Mesopotamia. The importation of the stone from Meluhha is mentioned in multiple Sumerian texts, including the Gadiya inscriptions. In the Lipshire litanies, Meluhha is referred to as Kurgug. Lehmann's has this epithet translated as meaning land of carnelian, although perhaps mountain of carnelian would be a more appropriate translation based upon my own understanding of the term Kur. This is one of several factors that were taken in considerations when scholars identified the geographic term Meluhha with the Indus River Valley. The people of the Indus Valley were famous for their skilled abilities at shaping the color of carnelian through removing some of the iron oxide by methods of heating the stone. The light spots in carnelian are created by the iron oxide content, thus deepening the redness of the stone. The dark red carnelian was exceptionally prized within Mesopotamia. A medical text written in Sumerian, BAM 237, prescribes Gugush Mesh, blood red carnelian. And again in line 40 of the text it mentions Gugshaush Lacticta, tested carnelian colored of blood. A specific style of long tubular biconical beads that are associated with the Indus Valley have been found at Ur and other locations throughout Mesopotamia. Such beads, some unfinished, and the drills to make these beads have been discovered in the remains of carnelian workshops at sites all throughout the Indus Valley. These beads are discussed in detail in A Brief Look Eastward, printed in Mesopotamian Medicine and Magic, Studies in Honor of Markham J. Geller. The book reads, deposits of longer nodules of good quality carnelian are found in western India. Working carnelian into especially long tubular biconial or barrel-shaped beads of up to about 15 centimeters demanded special drilling skills using specialized drills. It would have taken a lapidary more than 8 days to make one such long bead. It is the drilling techniques and perforations that can be identified these beads as originating in the Indus River Valley. Details are included regarding the special materials used to make the drill bits for these beads. The drilling of the beads took place on both ends and met in the middle. It's mentioned later in the work that it is possible that the techniques to manufacture these beads perhaps made its way to Mesopotamia, but there is no evidence of this. Carnelian beads of this make, found in both regions, are often decorated with the same white etched patterns. Ernest Mackay noted that the differences between the worked lapis, often crudely worked, and the carnelian, often finely worked, found at Mesopotamian sites suggested to him that they were made by different artisans and likely imported to Mesopotamia from different regions. A text dated to the Old Babylonian period mentions Bur-Gug, meaning kidney-shaped carnelian. It is believed that the term refers to kidney-shaped beads that are known to have been made in the Indus Valley. What can be stated without any doubt is that the processing of carnelian beads found in Mesopotamia required a very high level of expertise and technical skills. Jewelry was often made from pyrite rather than proper marcosite, as true marcosite is very brittle and difficult to work with. In antiquity, the term that is translated as marcosite refers to iron sulfides in general, including both pyrite and marcosite. And that concludes part 1 of our presentation on the use of stone in ancient Mesopotamia. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, give it a like, and please consider subscribing to the channel for future videos on ancient Mesopotamia.